The transit of transiting Saturn forming a harmonious trine aspect to natal Neptune represents one of the most profound, stabilizing, and chemically unique periods within human psychological development. In the landscape of astrology, Saturn and Neptune represent diametrically opposed cosmic principles. Saturn is the architect of the material plane, the master of boundaries, concrete form, clinical logic, and the reality principle. Neptune, conversely, is the planet of the infinite, the ocean of the collective unconscious, abstract imagination, spiritual ideals, and the dissolution of all rigid structures. When these two antithetical forces engage in a flowing, cooperative trine aspect, 120°/circ, the traditional friction between cold reality and fluid mysticism completely evaporates. Instead, they merge to create the ultimate signature of practical idealism and the crystallization of the invisible. It is a cosmic window where your deepest dreams, long-term psychological insights, and esoteric understandings are given the precise structural scaffolding required to manifest as tangible, enduring realities in the physical world. To fully comprehend the psychological mechanics of this transit, one must look at how it alters the internal architecture of the ego. Under harsher Saturn-Neptune cycles, such as the conjunction, square, or opposition, an individual often experiences a painful collision between their ideals and the harsh limitations of the material world, resulting in disillusionment, anxiety, or a sense of psychological collapse. However, the trine aspect removes this adversarial tension. Saturn does not crush Neptune's dreams, rather, Saturn acts as a protective container, a lightning rod that grounds the vast, amorphous, and sometimes overwhelming currents of the Neptune subconscious into functional, real-world utility. You develop a unique ability to look at your highest spiritual or creative visions with absolute emotional sobriety and clinical pragmatism. You stop merely wishing or fantasizing about a better reality, and you begin the meticulous, step-by-step engineering required to construct it. During this period, the mind operates with an extraordinary capacity for non-linear structuring and systemic synthesis. If you are someone who naturally analyzes everything to find order, this transit provides a magnificent mental climate for mastering highly complex, abstract, or esoteric systems of thought. Neptune provides the intuitive, macro-level access to deep psychological archetypes, hidden motivations, and cosmic patterns, while Saturn provides the analytical rigor, concentration, and patience required to map these concepts out into clean, logical, and highly functional frameworks. It is an ideal time for writing extensive creative or analytical works, engaging in deep psychological self-examination, or studying intricate systems like advanced astrology or macroeconomic trends. You can effortlessly bridge the gap between micro-level technical accuracy and macro-level conceptual vision, translating what is felt or sensed into a structured blueprint that anyone can read. Psychologically, Saturn trine natal Neptune offers a profound, quiet healing of the internal defense mechanisms and old emotional vulnerabilities. Neptune is where we are prone to escaping reality, falling into patterns of self-delusion, or feeling overwhelmed by the chaotic currents of the collective environment. When Saturn stabilizes this point, it brings a beautiful, comforting sense of emotional sobriety and psychological containment. You naturally develop an impenetrable energetic moat around your private world. If you are a naturally private person who finds the uninvited curiosity, opinions, and emotional volatility of others to be a draining distraction, this transit actively reinforces your perimeter. Your boundaries become so dense and self-contained that you no longer need to fight or loudly assert yourself to keep the outside world at bay. You develop a form of strategic detachment, a cool stoicism that allows you to observe external social or interpersonal chaos without absorbing a single drop of its turbulence. Furthermore, this transit marks a significant maturation in how you handle your personal sovereignty and your ultimate life trajectory. If you have spent years harboring a persistent, deep-seated urge to remove yourself from a stagnant environment, to move far away from your current location, or to completely restructure your life to live entirely on your own terms, this transit provides the perfect tactical execution window. It takes what might have been an erratic, idealistic fantasy of escape and upgrades it into a highly calculated, methodically planned migration. Every logistical, financial, and structural detail of your transition is handled with clinical precision. You are able to execute major life shifts or relocations in absolute silence, moving your chess pieces behind the scenes without the need for external validation, applause, or public announcements. You realize that true freedom is not a loud, rebellious protest, but a quiet, self-sustained reality that you build with your own hands. In the realm of personal belief systems and worldview, Saturn trine Natal Neptune cuts through all superficial spiritual bypasses, naive optimism, and external dogma, leaving behind a highly resilient, weaponized pragmatism. You stop looking for external institutions, gurus, or societal narratives to tell you what is true or how you should navigate your destiny. You effectively become the master architect of your own internal matrix. Your ethics, your philosophies, and your understanding of human nature become entirely self-validated and insulated from collective hysteria. You are content to work in quiet isolation, mastering your craft, optimizing your energy reserves, and building a secure, structural foundation that can withstand any external economic, social, or systemic volatility. When this transit concludes, the abstract ideals you have successfully anchored will no longer feel like fleeting inspirations. They will have become the solid, unshakable, and permanent pillars of your material reality that fully map the deep psychological subterranean layers of the Saturn trine Natal Neptune transit. We must analyze how this alignment alters the interface between your subconscious mind and your waking reality. In traditional psychology, Neptune represents the unmapped ocean of the psyche, the realm of dreams, ancestral memories, deep-seated psychological defense mechanisms, and the fluid boundaries where the self blurs into the collective. Saturn represents the skeletal system of the mind, the ego boundaries, the logical faculties, and the capacity for containment. When transiting Saturn forms a flowing trine to your natal Neptune, it acts as a stabilizing agent poured directly into your subconscious waters. The vague anxieties, unnameable dreads, or subtle vulnerabilities that Neptune can cause when left unstructured are suddenly brought to heel by Saturn's clinical, organizing logic. You are granted the rare ability to look directly into your deep psychological undercurrents with the detached, unemotional gaze of a scientist examining a specimen under a microscope. The structuring of the intangible and subtle energy. Under a standard Neptune aspect, a person can easily become overwhelmed by an acute sensitivity to their environment, absorbing the unexpressed tensions, hidden motives, and psychological garbage of the people around them. During the trine, Saturn provides Neptune with an airtight, intellectual filtration system. This psychological upgrade manifests as an incredibly potent, functional set of internal tools. Decoupling from collective hysteria, you develop a profound, almost mechanical immunity to the emotional tides of the collective. Whether it is macroeconomic panic, social media turbulence, or the localized drama of your immediate environment, your mind automatically categorizes these external inputs as not my architecture. You do not react, you do not absorb, you simply observe. The blueprinting of archetypal systems. If you are analyzing deep human dynamics, attachment theory, family wounds, or intricate esoteric systems like astrology, this transit gives you an unparalleled capacity for structural synthesis. You can trace the invisible, energetic threads of a system and map them into clear, scannable, logical frameworks. You take the highly abstract and render it structurally flawless. Clinical introspection. This period allows you to audit your own psychological defense mechanisms, such as avoidance, dissociation, or intellectualization, without a shred of self-judgment. You see exactly why your subconscious built certain walls during your development, and you logically recalibrate them to serve your current, sovereign adult reality. The mastery of sovereign isolation and strategic privacy. Neptune naturally seeks to dissolve connections, often leading to a desire to retreat, disappear, or become invisible. When Saturn trines this point, your innate preference for strict privacy and your intense dislike for external curiosity are elevated into a highly sophisticated, self-contained lifestyle strategy. You no longer feel any societal pressure to explain your lifestyle, your choices, or your absolute withdrawal from low-value social dynamics. You find a deep, stabilizing comfort in working completely behind the scenes, effectively operating from a position of strategic invisibility. You realize that the less people know about your projects, your resources, and your movements, the more power and structural integrity you possess. Your privacy ceases to be a defensive shield against the world and instead becomes an active, heavily fortified sanctuary where you hold total administrative control. Materializing the ideal exit plan. Neptune is famously associated with the archetype of the exile or the wanderer, the deep, persistent internal whisper telling you that you belong somewhere else, far away from your current environment. However, without Saturn, Neptune's urge to relocate or escape manifests as aimless drifting or a fantasy of geographic cure that falls apart upon arrival.